In a time of great injustice, they needed heroes to believe in. Comics are an incredible pastime. They're a way of escaping into a fantasy world. And in this tutorial, we're going to show you how you can create your own comics in a matter of minutes. And in order to do that, we're going to use a tool today called COMICAI, specifically focusing on their multi-drawing styles feature that they have. So as soon as you go to the platform, which will be in the description below, you're going to come over to this page, and all you need to do is start for free. And once you've done that, you're going to see here that you can start with a story, you can visualize your characters. In fact, they've got a specific character development profile that you can use to develop a complete profile for your comic book. So if you really want to take this seriously, that's an option as well. So let's go ahead and get started with that. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to Start Creating. And it brings us over to this page over here. Now you can see that there are multiple drawing styles that we can use over here, from anime to neopunk to monochrome to gothic to analog film to superhero comic and fantasy and just about everything in between, right? So we're going to explore some of these today to see how they fare. Now as soon as you click the style that you want and you name it, it's going to bring you over to a page where you need to tell the story. Now if you have the story, great. If you don't, you can use AI to generate the story for you. The great thing about COMICAI is that you have a whole lot of credits that you can use every single day to generate your comics. So that's pretty cool. So what we're going to do is give it a simple prompt, and I'm going to give it one that's about a reclusive chess player who is secretive about where he gained his skills from. And as soon as I start generating that, it gives me a version of the story. If I'm not happy with it, I can regenerate it and it'll regenerate a new story for me, which is pretty awesome. Then if I click next, it's going to go through the character development. So I go there and now it's got all the characters in my story that will be relevant to our comic. So I quite like these characters. If you're not happy with a character, what you can simply do is go to regenerate and it'll give you a different version of the character. Now, what's important here is that the appearance description will help kind of clarify what you want your character to look like. So if you wanted to have blue eyes or brown eyes, you'd put that in here. So COMICAI does that really, really well. Okay, so we're going to go to the neon punk art style and we're going for a Victorian era steampunk feel to our story. It's going to generate the story and then it's going to pull up our characters. As you can see over here, the steampunk theme has really pulled through quite strongly, which is pretty awesome. Quite like the look and feel of this. Different characters and they have that vintage feel about them, which is pretty awesome. This character over here, I don't quite like her, so let's make an adjustment there and regenerate. And that is a lot better. Quite happy with that. Then finally, let's use the superhero comic style in order to create our own comic. Okay, so we're going to use this one to generate the comic that we are going to make. So I choose the style. Okay, and the story is going to be about a girl named Rebecca who finds her own superpower. Okay. Within seconds, it generates our story, which is pretty awesome. I quite like that. And then with a couple of adjustments to our story, I'm going to go ahead to the next section. And this is where you have your characters. Okay, so the important thing about this is an origin story. So we've got before characters and after characters. So it's already picked up 3 characters in our story after briefly looking through it, which is pretty cool. So we've got Emma and we've got Rebecca, and that's pretty cool. So we can change anything that we might want to change around these characters. Now, if we go next, it's going to bring us to the panels. Now, this is where we get to put each of these characters into a specific position. We can put them in pictures together and all sorts of things. Okay, the challenge that I'm facing is that because, like I was saying, it's an origin story, we're going to need before characters and after characters. So I'm going back and I'm going to adjust these characters to make sure that both Emma and Rebecca have a before kind of simple look and feel to them, but also their superhero guises as well. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Once I'm happy with that, then I'm going to go back to these panels, and now I have a series of characters to work with. The cool thing about it is you have these action references where you can get them in all kinds of positions, and it gives you prompts around what happens in each of these scenes. So this takes a bit of time. You're going to have to kind of work your way through it, make sure that you're happy with the images. It took a couple of regenerations to get to a point where I was quite happy with what I created, but overall, you know what? Pretty freaking awesome. That fact that I can make my own comic without having to know how to draw. There's one more function that you can use with regard to image referencing, which is actually pretty cool. So to show you this, I'm going to go and sketch a wonderful drawing of Rebecca, and I'm going to create a new panel, and I'm going to use this image reference, and I'm going to upload our picture. Now, all I need to do now is give it a prompt, and the more detailed I am with my prompt, the better the output is going to be. So as soon as I do that, I'll head down to generate, and I can choose if I want it to generate a low level, medium, or high level weight to it. So I'm going to play around with each of them and see what it comes up with. On the low end of the scale, it keeps the stick drawing as it is. On the high end, it actually produces something pretty beautiful. And if I modify the prompt and I make it more clear and put in definitions like 4K masterpiece, look at what the output becomes. It's really, really cool. So I've just got to be clear on the art style specifically, and a few generations later, it's come up with something pretty decent. Although I'm going to try something else, and I'm going to put in a picture of Rebecca, our character, and I want to see what it can create if I change the variation slightly. And what it comes up with are a couple of options. Again, by perfecting the prompt, I'm able to come up with something pretty decent, and look at that. It comes up with a pretty cool picture of Rebecca. So I'm going to go ahead and use this in my paints. Once you have completed all of those panels and you're happy with what you've generated, this is where you are going to head over to actually making your comic. So to do that, you just click on next, and it's going to give you the specific pages for your comic. The cool thing about this is they have a whole lot of templates that you can play around with. So they've got elements like bubbles and graphics and templates. And the cool thing about it is these templates actually make it look like a real comic book. I mean, I'm going to play around with this over here, and I'm going to start dropping in those images. So each of those panels that we've created before, we can now slot in here effortlessly. I mean, look at that. And we can go ahead and create that. The second page, I'm going to use a different template. And now I'm going to put in a simple bubble at the top here saying, you know what? In an ordinary city where nothing extraordinary ever happens, a young girl is about to disrupt the status quo, right? I quite like that. I can start inputting all my images. And what I want is to really set the context around Rebecca and getting started. So look at this. Very, very cool. As you go through it, you'll find that it's so easy to use, so functional. And if you just click on the images as well, you can make them bigger, smaller, do whatever. So you can play around with a whole lot of these features, making the images bigger, smaller. As you can see, I kind of went back and forth to try and find the right images. I even generated some scenery, which was pretty cool as well. And the cool thing about it is you can just regenerate and regenerate until you are happy with what it comes out with. So COMICAI has really given you so much scope to just play around and experiment with your images. So finally, the final thing you're going to do is you're going to download it. If you go to the download function in the corner, it's going to download the entire strip. So let's put that together and let's see what it's created. Haha, that is actually pretty awesome. So if you're looking for a bit of fun to actually generate your own comics, have a look at that. COMICAI is a great place to start. All the links that you'll need to get started will be in the description below. And as always, if you've enjoyed this video, remember to like and subscribe for more content just like this.